Me hit the record this, and good evening, not the morning, but good evening, everyone. Welcome back. Happy New Year. It is 2024, and we are here on episode 90 of the South Florida Gamers podcast. You guys know who I am, Silverback Senpai, and across the table from me is none other than my co-host, Waluigi.
Evening. Wow. We need to find something for the evening.
Yes.
But glad to be back in. New year, new us, and new guest.
Absolutely, and that is none other than Blazing Bocchi.
Good evening, chat. Glad to be here.
How are you doing this evening?
I've been doing pretty well, just staying pretty busy, keeping up with my bucket list of games over the last couple months. Just really excited for the Uni 2 drop that's coming very soon. So I'm doing my best to avoid any burnout because I know that that's going to be quite the upcoming grind for both playing a lot online and just doing more promotional stuff for all the locals that we've got coming up this year for it.
Oh, heck yeah. That's promising.
Absolutely. All right. As y'all know, in traditional fashion, this episode of the podcast is going to be available on SoundCloud. Well, not SoundCloud anymore.
RIP.
Yeah. iTunes, Spotify, and all other audio hosting platforms. Just look up South Florida Gamers Podcast. And, of course, it's also available on Facebook and YouTube and Twitch as well. So if you have not seen the podcast live, or if you want to rewatch it again, it's going to be on those platforms. So without further ado, I want to get into the meat and potatoes of our episode, because today is Blazing Bocchi's episode, and we want to know, what are your gaming origins? What got you into gaming? Give us your gaming background story of how you became a gamer from the time you first started to all the way up until today.
Well, my gaming origin goes all the way back to my dad. Pretty much as far back as I remember. My parents were separated, but they still kept in contact all the time. So my mom would be the one that was kind of strict, would try to get me to do anything like play baseball.
More like outdoor activity?
Lots of outdoor activity stuff, while my dad always kind of had his own little thing where the biggest memory I have was him playing Star Wars Rogue Squadron.
Ooh.
He's a huge fan of that game, and he was the one that got me stuff like Sonic 2, like back on the Sega Genesis.
Double.
And what was it? I had only like a memory of that game being on Genesis, but Super Nintendo was where all of my fondest memories begin, with Mega Man X. And
classic.
That's the first time I heard someone say Mega Man in a while.
Being able to beat that game as a kid, you have no idea. Especially going back to seeing like the sequelitis, being like, wow, this game was intense back in the day. And I was obsessed with the whole like Sigma fight, and they were like, well, you can still restart right here, and we're gonna give you full life, so just do it. And then there is like Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. I used to see my older brother play that game all the time. So by the time I was like comfortable playing it on my own, I was just like, man, I know this whole game already, and this game is just so good. So I had, I also had an N64. I had a Sega Genesis. Very, very late into PS2, I was able to get one of those, and eventually found like a PS1 on a garage sale that came packaged with Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
Classic.
Wow,
I
that's
love
a specific classic I have not heard yet.
Yes, that is a classic. I remember playing that game when I was young too. Like, it was such a great game back then. But continue.
Yeah, being able to stumble upon stuff like that is why I really tried to do my best. If they have any little like side stall that has video games there, I'm looking to recapture that essence that the PS1 and Castlevania got for me back in the day. And so let's see here. I actually remember my first fighting game being Smash Bros. 64. That commercial
Oh my god, I saw the commercial for the first time a few years back.
That commercial got me so hyped.
Yes.
And I got to play it with my my like siblings a lot, and I had this like little group of friends. Well, they were mostly my brother's age, but I had one other friend that was my age that would be part of this group of us, like just playing Smash 64 for a while.
Oh, that's dope.
Time flew by when Melee finally dropped.
Yep.
And then I had one friend there that I like knew through middle school that we were willing to like meet up and play with each other. And then he had his sister's boyfriend went over to the FAU that's over in Boca.
Mm-hmm.
So he would play with us a lot. And we would get our asses kicked by his Captain Falcon.
Oh yeah.
And he would just be like, "Oh, if you guys like, you seem like you're really into this game. You got to come check out the competitive scene."
Oh.
So I had to have been around 13 or 14 when I went to my first tournament.
Oh wow.
My Kirby definitely went 0-2, and I got to see what all the other people were playing, like Peach and Marth and Sheik and Fox. And I was just like, "Oh, I got to mess around with those characters a little bit. I think I'm gonna start investing more time into like even back when we didn't have the pick a top tier video.
Yeah.
Like I knew at the time that like these strengths are obvious, and I'm actually just kind of missing out on fun by not taking advantage of this myself when it feels like the mood is there."
Right.
Yeah. I respect that.
And then fast forward to early high school, I was able to go to this like EB Games that opened up next to my
EB
house.
Games.
EB Games.
Yeah.
Oh my
It
god.
was
Man.
free GameStop. We had
Yeah.
it in EB Games, and the people there, like me and my one friend, would just become the mall rats. Like go to the store, and we'd get heckled by the manager and some of the other people, just being like, "Oh, what are you kids doing here all the time? Like, don't you gotta go do your homework or something?" No, C student.
Realest thing I've heard.
Yes.
C student.
And that was my first exposure to Street Fighter 3
Ooh.
and Guilty Gear Accent Core. 'Cause
Double.
The older people there used to play that against each other all the time. And I kind of like dabbled in them just a little bit, but not enough to actually learn any of the characters or appreciate the games. Maybe a little bit of Street Fighter 3. That game was actually still like easy enough to be like, oh, you know, I could do low forward into fireball, into eventually learning how to do a super cancel, like starting with stuff like that. But for the most part, what they would play with me was Clash of Ninja 2, the Naruto.
Oh yeah.
I've heard that scene before.
I've played it.
That sounds familiar.
I've played it.
That was easily another one of those fighting games where like I could tell which of the characters were super good.
Yes.
And I would play them against the people that were at the store, and eventually they would rage out and just say like, "No, you cannot pick like Ninetales Naruto anymore. You can't pick Norobochi Maru."
Gara was one of them.
Yeah, Gar's super good. I didn't know back in the day that Shikamaru had the sauce.
Yes.
I did not know this either, actually.
Yeah, he was like the secret tier. Like people, you would not expect him because of, if you followed the anime, you knew that Shikamaru, had the shadow possession jutsu and whatnot. But in that game, like Shikamaru was really, really good. Like, especially if you knew how to use him. Oof, he was waxing people left and right.
But he had like such an easy way to get his stuff started too. Especially
Yes.
I got to play against a friend that was just like, "Oh, you haven't seen Shikamaru before," and this was like 2 years ago. That he was like, "I'm going to show you why this character is busted," and he would just do the 1, 2, 3 into the shadow possession stance.
I
and then
remember.
he just cancels that and gets the same combo going. I'm just
Yeah,
like, this
I
is an
remember
infinite.
that.
It's a loop. What? I didn't know that existed.
So those are some good times. And so the GameStop people got me into Blaze Blue. They were the ones that Calamity Trigger had all of that hype going on for it.
Okay.
And they were like, they would point at me, go like, "You are the next generation, so you need to try."
That sounds
this
scary,
new
and that sounds
Guilty
cool.
Gear game.
Yeah, I remember Blaze Blue because I was like, okay, this is a interesting anime game. I'm seeing all the the trailer for it. Okay, interesting characters, because I knew of Guilty Gear back then, but the trailers for Guilty Gear really didn't capture me like Blaze Blue was, because I'm like thinking, okay, this is an actual, is this an anime coming up, or is this like an anime fighter? And I jumped onto Calamity Trigger as well, and I just fell in love with it. I believe my main at that time was Noel, which is still my main.
Oh, that character was something back then, though. Like
Yes.
for Calamity Trigger and Continuum Shift, there was a couple of local people, well, semi-local. Like we'd have to drive up to Winter Haven and stuff like that. To
Oh,
go
wow.
Find people that were part of the scene of the game, and eventually Versus would open up down here, and we'd have more local players here. But that was like high school. I was able to find one other friend that was into it for Continuum Shift. But Calamity Trigger, I had a very like opposite experience. That I was actually like, this game, even though they had that whole promotional DVD that came with it, where there were actual like old school fighting game players that were teaching you how to play the game.
Yeah.
They had that?
Yeah, like, even if he's now like not at the same level of hype that he was before. Like there's a Mike Z video of him
Oh my
teaching
God.
people how to play Tager in this like terrible Russian like accent. But it was still like very funny to me back in the day, that I was just like, this is crazy that they are willing to put in the time to do stuff like that. Like they really do care about flourishing a good fighting game community for this game. And so when Continuum Shift and like Extend dropped, they sped up the game a lot, and I decided I didn't really like playing Jin in the other games before, so I'm gonna try just messing around with the cast. Eventually, I landed on Bang, and managed to find a lot of love for the character, and was just like, man, this guy is a training mode dummy for everything, but he's so hyped to play.
Yeah.
And eventually, as more and more versions came out, the character was getting stronger. Still, the peak of my like Blaze Blue career was Chrono Phantasma Extend,
Yes.
where I've had like a handful of people that would just pause the game in the middle of a match and just be like, "What did you do to deserve this? Half of my life is gone. I'm in the corner. I'm not having a good time, and you're probably going to kill me with the next touch because you didn't use any meter on this combo."
Blaze Blue was definitely that kind of game where
I didn't know this.
Like, listen, if you don't lab, or if you don't know how certain characters play, you was gonna get cooked, easy.
Oh yeah, and there's even still things now that like if you don't know how to instant block things, like I think it's called Growler, the one where Azrael like goes forward and does the punch. On normal block, it's like +2 or something around there, so he gets to keep his turn. But if you instant block it, then you get your turn, or at least you have to force them to RPS
Yeah.
if they want to try to just keep doing stuff like that. And there's plenty of things like that in Blaze Blue, where just being able to instant block like one or two moves, like either in the middle or at the end of a string, is going to make it so you don't have to deal with like endless pressure resets or trying to do something crazy to get out.
Yeah, I agree. I've had most of my experience with Blaze Blue has always been online, because I never knew there was like a local scene for it in South Florida as long as I've been living here. So when I found out that there were actually Blaze Blue players here, I was like, I want to play against some of y'all, because I've never gotten that opportunity to play against other Blaze Blue players, and I got bodied. I was using Kagura, and I remember I think I played against I forgot his name. I think it's Kira XYZ,
Oh yeah, I mean,
and he was using S, and I was like, online I could beat S with Kagura. How he was playing, I'm just like, huh. I never knew this. This is all new to me. Huh. Okay. I didn't get mad. I was just like, I never knew this.
yeah, I'm pretty sure one of the CEOs that happened last year, like Kira, like still had to come up, and I'm pretty sure he's able to make top 4, like bare minimum. I remember getting to see him like play against the Japanese players that came from out of town. So I'm sure he's very hyped about how much progress he was able to make throughout the game's lifetime. But even back in the BlazBlue days, I was already double dipping.
Right.
So my other origin story comes from when I got into Marvel vs. Capcom. So
Ooh.
I was pretty hyped for the drop of Vanilla, and I remember that launch very well because I was I had my fighting game like little posse going on at that time, and two of my friends were willing to. It was like in the middle of the summer, I'm pretty sure, and we decided to go over to one of the colleges over in Melbourne, and because my friend was staying there. We stayed there for the whole weekend playing Marvel vs. Capcom, like messing around with the whole cast, trying to see who we think feels good, and we maxed out his student card, just buying like vitamin water and a bunch of junk.
That's
the,
funny.
the weekend passed by. As we get back home, I made the realization. I was just like, you know what? This game sucks.
Oh,
And
wow.
So it wasn't that long of a wait before Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom dropped. And just them showing all the stuff that were the changes, especially just being a little bit more hype about the fact that they were going to make Beautiful Joe into a playable character, adding a bunch of new characters to the roster, or four. And just in general, like getting rid of the DHC glitch, that just got me pretty excited to give the game another shot. And that was where my Beautiful Joe history started. Was because Ultimate dropped, and they gave the character sauce. But at the time, I was playing Beautiful Joe, Dante, and Hawkeye. That was a team that I ended up sticking with for the longest time. And then I didn't end up getting very successful. Maybe the best I did was like a top 16 at one of the tournaments over in Tampa. So I did get to go to Tampa Never Sleeps a couple of times before they stopped doing locals, and got to meet a bunch of the Florida scene from a combination of being part of the Capcom players with Marvel vs. Capcom and being part of the anime scene with BlazBlue.
That's dope.
So I have been around forever, like at least like 010, something like that was when I started trying to be a real competitor. And I got into Under Night with the same person that got me into BlazBlue. It was just brought the game over one day. It was just like, bro, you need to try this out. This game's pretty hot. Tried out Lene for a couple of weeks. Wasn't really feeling her. So this was the first fighting game that I decided, you know what? It was Under Night EXE late, yeah, Uniel. That I was just like, you know what? Which characters are good in this game? Because I'm going to see if there's a character that is both good and that has a play style that I would enjoy. So top one by a mile was Gordeau.
Ah.
Yep, as everybody would say.
Yeah.
And then you just see this other little guy over there on the side, Carmine. And I was like, oh, why is nobody playing this character if they're considered one of the top tiers? And just like a handful of videos, getting to see that both this character not only cooks, but he has a good matchup against Gordeau, like one of the few characters in the game that can actually like keep up with him. So spent like an entire week just trying to be like, I at least know how to do negative edging from using the bombs for Beautiful Joe in Marvel vs. Capcom. So I ended up being able to pick up that part pretty quickly, and then the rest of it was just kind of getting used to his dash speed, especially in the middle of combos. Like you have to do that one where you throw the wheel, the thing on the ground OTGs them. Mm-hmm. That's probably one of my like biggest annoyances of getting used to at first, was just making sure that I didn't drop that all the time. And a whole week later, I play against my friend again, and it was like night and day that he was just like, I can't keep up with all the stuff that this character is doing now, and you're just like overwhelming me.
Nice.
And we got to go to final round, or no, final round. I think it was back in 2015. I got to go to they hosted Under Night as a main game there, but I'm pretty
Really?
sure that they only ended up getting like around 16 or 20 people total, like not very many for a main game.
Right.
My round one was against Wolf Crone, and I ended up just like slapping him up real bad. He just unplugged, didn't have anything to say. Just like, I'm quitting this game forever. And then my round two was my friend that came over with me, and I was just like,
that's
wow, this
awkward.
is really bare bone. Like,
Yeah.
this normally only happens at home, and here we are, like, back in Atlanta. And then that was over, and they're like, you're in top 8. And I think that the funniest part, number one, was that I go back and look for the results of this and try to find the VOD. There's nothing. They only posted top 4.
Oh, man, that
and
bites.
I had to fight against 2 like really good players that are still really good players now. It was Bolt Strike and Goichi.
I've heard of Goichi. I've heard of him.
But then the rest of that major, I got to meet up with more of like I tried to get more people to play Under Night, but then things happened and everybody that showed up to our first like get together in the side room that they had for bring your own consoles, like everybody just started playing Blaze Blue. So I was like, okay, I
that's
guess this
awkward.
is just another like random Blaze Blue session. I mean, I'm down with that. I was just like, I love this game, so of course, let's play some
Okay.
Blaze Blue. And a lot of those people that I met at that random side room are still like very close friends. Every time I go to a major, like Brakir and Yohozi are the ones that I remember. But that was a pretty fuzzy, crazy night for me.
That does sound crazy.
Interesting. So I gotta ask this one question then. So out of all the fighting games that you have played, which one to you speaks to you in a way to where it's just like, I'm gonna continue playing this game for years and years and years later down the road. I don't care how old I get. This is one fighting game I know I'm going to love and enjoy, despite the bullshit that people say about this game. I'm gonna continue loving it. What game would that be to you?
It's not just one game for me,
Okay.
but right off the bat, like Under Night has always been one of those games where I was perfectly fine playing it with like the 3 or 4 people that were going over to the Versus Gaming Center back in the day, and then like sticking with EXE late. Eventually, Udist drops, and a couple months into that was when they made the Evo announcement. The scene blew up, and I was just like, "Yo, I'm here for this." And especially now that that game's going to have rollback. Of course, I'm
Finally.
be flourishing. Melty Blood type Lumina. I'm always probably going to be playing that game, along with a little bit of like current code on the side, because I have such a big appreciation of how Arkwood feels in that game, how the game feels in general. A lot of the love that the dev took into making the game feel at least like the characters' button speed are mostly very similar to how they were before, especially like 5-framer is still like a staple to it. And then they just kind of changed the defense to be, even though people knock the shield system, it does do a pretty good job of controlling some of the craziness and for rewarding somebody for actually having like good defense on things that should be shielded. It feels like if you're managing your resources well, and especially if you're paying attention to what people are doing, it's really easy to play around them. And it's one of those games where even more than Under Night that I'm like, I'm feeling myself right now. And then you just destroy somebody for it. Like it can happen to anybody in that game. Blaze Blue, I'm glad that like I literally cried when I got to be there for the announcement at CEO Otaku that this is going to be a game that I could just play for the rest of my life now. And
Because not to cut you off, because there's no other Blaze Blue coming out anymore, right?
as far as we know, it's probably going to be like, even if it does come back, they're not going to get the same kind of crowd because Mori is no longer part of the company. And so far, the new Blaze Blue is now a Metroidvania game.
Yeah,
Oh.
I've seen that.
And BB Tag didn't really end up getting me into it that much because even though it's like on paper, this would seem like the perfect game for me. I'm into tag fighters and I'm into all the stuff that the game is built around. But then I tried to play my actual characters and I was just like,
It just feels weird.
yeah.
Is it like wonky?
No, it's definitely faster, but there was stuff that I would use in like neutral that would just be assigned to completely different buttons and having a whole completely different layout. I was just like, I don't know if I'm really feeling this game, and just didn't end up giving it another chance because I'm like so absorbed with those other 4 games that now at this point, I don't think I'd be able to take any other new game seriously because I'm so happy with those 4, and I still have to very much pick and choose. Like, I'm only going to be able to practice for 2 of these at a major.
Right.
So the other ones, I'm just going to have to put them on the side for now.
Right. That's how I feel with what's her name, Yuzu Riha in Under Night. Like in Under Night, I struggle with her, but in BB Tag, I can use her very well. And so I get what you mean. Like with your character in BB Tag, there are just certain things that you can't do versus if they were in their actual game like Under Night, I can use all of their resources, and of course the controls are the same. Versus in BB Tag, it's completely different, and I may not have all of their resources. So yeah, I can relate to that because that's how I feel with Yuzuriha. Like I can't use her in BB. No, I can use her in BB Tag. I can't use her in Under Night, and I try to force myself to be like, I want to get good with this character, but after playing the beta for Sis Celeste, I was like, with a lot of games coming out, I think this is going to be the one game I'm going to have to put in the back burner. Like, I'll play it casually and try to learn some stuff here and now and then, but it's like, this is going to be the one game where I'm not going to take it competitively seriously. I'm not saying it's a bad game. Like, it ran smooth. I have nothing negative to say about it. It's just, it's not clicking with me. But I get what you mean.
Yeah, it's like, if some random time came by, then I know that I'd go back and definitely mess around with new characters because my problem was that it wasn't what I wanted it to be, and I just didn't accept what it was, which is what most BB Tag players are very happy with doing that. And also the first year of the game, I did get to volunteer for a handful of running the BB Tag brackets at the events, just as a volunteer. And it was actually hilarious to me to see some of the stuff that people would have to deal with in bracket. Mainly, a lot of the universal DPs would also just be air unblockable.
Oh.
So people would. There was one match where I saw somebody lose 60% of their life because they kept up backing on wake up, and then they would just DP them, bring them back down, and they were making such a statement on somebody in the middle of a tournament bracket.
That's painful.
It can happen to anybody.
All right, so my next question I got to ask, non-fighting game related, what are some of your favorite gaming genres that you would just love to play?
My biggest obsession was actually MMOs for a while. One of my first RPGs, or JRPGs especially, but RPGs too, was Final Fantasy X. And then when Final Fantasy XI came out, there was a lot of convincing between me and my brother to my dad to be like, hey, the next Final Fantasy game came out. The last one was pretty good. Let's play this new one. And my dad was definitely one of those guys that was just like, why do I have to put my credit card information on this stuff? So we managed to convince him to do that. And I still have I can remember it like it's yesterday, that whole login screen of the dial-up, waiting 2 minutes just to get logged into the game.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And as I messed around with the game for a little bit for a couple months, wasn't able to get past level 8 or something because these damn bird people, they kept killing me. And I was just a little guy. And that game is brutal. You die, you lose 10% of your experience.
Oh.
So I was not very good at picking my battles back in that day. And it was also just very early on, the game was mean to you. It started at like level 5 was when you could start de-leveling. So I'm like stuck in this area. A couple months later, I go to summer camp, and I'm talking to this like one camp counselor, this like goth girl that's really into like video games, would play like Advanced Wars and Fire Emblem, and would watch us play like Mega Man Battle Network. I think it was like the second and the third game that there were just like a couple people that were part of that that'd be down to play with me. So we had like a little like gamer crew, and she ends up hearing that I'm playing Final Fantasy 11, and she's just like, "Oh, whatever you were doing before, drop that. Come play on my server, and I'll try to help you get started." So it only took one person to create my like MMO identity of being like, "Oh wow, now I want to be a Dark Knight because she's a Dark Knight. Like, that armor looks sick."
The influence. It's beautiful.
Yes.
And so the first thing that she said to me was, "You are playing a mage race, and you want to be a physical damage person. So I hope you know that you're going to be struggling, because the racism in that game was real."
No racism in the game.
But there is also like it was actually there that by the time you would get to level like 75 or even way earlier, like level 40, like you could tell the difference between how much HP like a Taru like Dark Knight would have compared to the Elvon guys that would have like almost twice the HP, do like more damage on their hits and stuff like that. So I had to try to make up with it for being like, well, I've got my dark magic capped out, so at least my spells actually work. But sometimes you just fight things that are getting experience in that game would involve like going to a main city hub and trying to basically like look for people that had their search message posted for trying to look for a certain job or class, and like trying to message them as soon as possible. Eventually would get something. Usually it could take anywhere between like 5 minutes to up to an hour.
Oh my
just,
God.
Like attempting to try to find some people that were willing to get me in part of their group. Especially, but it was also my own fault because I was playing like a race job combination that wasn't good, and people, if things got a little bit dicey, it just ended up being like a time waste because you know you die, you lose experience. It was brutal, but it did get to teach me a lot about interacting with people that were a lot older than me. And then the people at like GameStop would find out that I was playing Final Fantasy 11, and they were like, "Oh, well, if you want to try out World of Warcraft, it's like a much faster paced RPG. We're playing it."
Oh my God.
So I got to actually get like a taste of it with them, but didn't end up really sticking with it until later on. The one friend that I was playing Melee with ended up getting into World of Warcraft, ended up showing me what like raiding was like back in vanilla, and I took like 7 months of just playing the game at my own pace to finally get to level 60, and the game was already near like the end of the life cycle for the first expansion.
Interesting.
So that was where the obsession started of being like, oh man, I missed out on pretty much everything that was in the vanilla version of the game. So when Burning Crusade drops, I'm at least going to get my character leveled up and be able to try out most of the stuff. I ended up not liking early game and came back to it after there were like 2 whole raid tiers that came out. And then my friend like got me back up to speed with just getting raid ready. And he showed me this like group of friends that he was playing with. I got really lucky on our first run of the intro raid in Burning Crusade was a 10-man Karazhan. I ended up getting, I think it was called like the Phoenix Bow, something like that, that came from one of the last bosses in the dungeon. And then the next week after that, I was like beating everybody else in damage, like according to the damage recount.
Oh God.
And I had to go up to my buddy and be like, oh, I think your friends might not be good at this game. Especially finding out that there was this whole like 25-man stuff that they just seemed like they were never going to be able to get enough members for. That I ended up being the sweaty one of the two of us, as being like, we're going to have to leave your friends, and we're going to have to find some new
It'd
friends.
be like that.
And
Oh my god.
we ended up we had one raid group that we tried out where they ended up going to like Serpent Shrine Cavern, I think it was called, and this guild was not able to beat the Lurker Below, and even for a boss that I was there for the first time, it's like you had this little donut, the boss is in the middle, and one of their main mechanics is called like Water Spout, and all it does is it blows like a water cannon in front of it, and it turns around very slowly. All you have to do is just kind of like go into the water to avoid it and then come back out. So I'd see all the people that were part of this guild just getting blasted by this mechanic. And they ended up calling it after like an hour and a half of attempts. And me and him both collectively were like, no, this ain't it. We're going to try another one. And then we ended up getting super lucky with the second one, with these people being like, oh, we're from another server. We transferred this huge group of people, and we're going to try to do Blackwing Lair, or Black Temple. I think it was Black Temple, yeah. So we're going to put all of our trials through the trial by fire using that like Serpent Shrine dungeon. They would only go up to, I think it was like Leotheris, and then we did Tempest Keep. They only did 2 of the bosses there. One of the ones that they highly emphasized was this boss named Solarian, and we're just like, you need to get this add-on that tells you when you have the debuff, because otherwise it's like a very simple fight where everybody would stay in a group because there would be a lot of damage going on, and there would be like a bunch of space between the melee and the actual ranged group. And then somebody would get this debuff, and it made you into like a living bomb. So the goal of this add-on was that when you had this debuff, your entire screen turns like a hue of purple.
Oh.
And that's when you get out of the raid, let the bomb explode, blast up really high, and then come back down and do your thing again. So that was like something that they really emphasized with like, if you don't know how to do this one mechanic and you mess it up one time, we're never going to bring you again.
That's so serious.
But they ended up being like very chill when we got to do the actual like content, and I was able to do pretty well. So they're like, all right, you're our guy, you're our hunter guy, so we need you to just keep pumping. While my friend ended up just kind of like getting bored with the game at the time, and a lot of the raids he would just like binge anime like constantly in the middle of them. So he would just get too distracted and stuff would happen and be like, bro, you're a tank. I need you to
do your job.
Like do your job a little bit. But those are like really good times. That MMO group, I ended up doing other random games with like League of Legends. They got me into that.
You poor soul.
But it used to be a different time, especially because I didn't get into the game around the League community. I got into the game with my friends.
Okay.
Fair enough.
So it's like after playing around with them, I ended up finding out that more people would play League of Legends at like middle school and high school. And then I was just like, oh, wow, these guys actually like taught me how to play this game, because now I can just play it with some other random person and they won't be like super toxic to me. Save for one moment, but they're not really friends anymore. It was pretty funny. I think it was like they were playing an AD carry and I was playing Nunu, and they were like, oh, I need you to back me up every time I go in. And I would just be like, no, I don't really play like that. I'm pretty like super conservative when it comes to League of Legends. So unless if I know that I'm going to kill somebody, then I'm just going to keep like chipping away at them. And they would just be like, no, like now's the time, we're going in. They wouldn't give me a heads up or anything. So the game is over, they're calling me out for it. And I'm just like,
it's not your fault.
you got to check yourself.
Yeah, literally.
You're actually not good at this game.
Oh, so Nunu's a tank. That does make sense.
Yeah, he's kind of tanky, but he would at least his moveset back in the day was he would enhance the attack speed and a very slight like movement speed increase for himself and for one other person.
Oh, okay.
So that was what made him like a really great support. And he had another move where you just shoot a little snowball at somebody. It wasn't even like a skill shot, and then they would get slowed down. And that was always like extremely useful in that game. Outside of course, like somebody's coming up to the bush, and you're charging up your new ult. Those are moments to live for. Being able to catch like 2 or 3 people with that fully
That's
charged
funny.
ult. And then, like season 1, season 2, I was into the game a little bit, but very quickly like fell out of it because the like tanky utility champions like Rammus and like Amumu and stuff would like fall off a lot in favor of these like bruiser type characters.
Oh, yeah.
So I just really wasn't feeling the changes that they made to the game, and haven't. If I like ever go back to it once in a blue moon, I just play ARAM, so it can
Understandable.
just be purely good times and not having to deal with the League of Legends community.
Gotcha.
I would just play with bots if I ever had a chance.
All right, and last question that I want to ask before we move on to our next topic is: as you've grown up playing, becoming a gamer and whatnot, and of course, being a competitive gamer, what are some of your favorite games of all time that you could just name off the top of your head? You can give us 5.
Favorite games of all time. Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. Easily one of those games. Like that and Ocarina of Time, I'll just bundle them as one.
Yeah.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Because they are not only the game that I like love to watch other people play and see how they like manage to get around stuff, but I have like such fond memories with it and can always just go back to it and feel like I'm enjoying it, like it's my first playthrough again. Or even just being like, oh, I know it's my first playthrough, but now I'm just gonna like flex on this stuff. Like, being able to kill a boss with 2 hits of a giant stick, it really brings something out of you. Or Link to the Past, there was that one, like, being able to beat Aghanim, like the wizard guy, with a bug net.
I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, it's like he throws the projectiles, and you can reflect them back with the bug net.
That's funny.
It's moments like that I really, really miss in video games. That I really hope that eventually they go back and put stuff like that. That they mattered so much to me. Let's see.
Number 2.
Sonic the Hedgehog 3. I had such a big thing going on with this at summer camp, where I remember that they would have like maybe 30 minutes or something in the computer lab, and there were only 3 computers there that had Sonic 3 on it. So I would have to like push kids aside and be like, no, I'm going to play Sonic 3 today. And they also had it at this like dentist's office, or no, it was a pediatrician that I used to go to. They'd have like Sonic and Knuckles at like an arcade cabinet there. So I always thought that was kind of where my like arcade cabinet stuff started. It was just like, man, this stuff we played on the console all the time, and now it's just like this arcade stick stuff feels great. And I'm still a really big fan of the side-scroller Sonic games, but Mania was a phenomenal tribute, probably to like all the old school stuff. But Sonic 3 and Knuckles is like up there. It's like one of my goated games.
Okay. Number 3.
The Ace Attorney trilogy.
Oh my god, you're the first to save us.
Yeah, I've actually played through those games up to now. It's been 4 times because I got to start with them back when they did the GBA re-release. Got to play them on the DS, and I'm like a huge fan of the whole series. Like definitely Ace Attorney 5, the one like Apollo Justice game, is still probably my like least favorite of all time. but I have played the two Edgeworth games, which I think Ace Attorney Investigations 2. I really hope that they release a English bundle of the 1 and 2 games like they've been doing for all the other ones. That's probably like the main reason why I make sure to buy all of the bundles of the games that come out, so I can be like, look, I'm giving you my money, so as a customer, I'm entitled to tell you that you need to make more stuff like this.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
The fan base is very niche, and I do respect that.
And like him being added to Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom by the time that I was already a big fan of the game was just like,
That's
how
still
is this
funnier.
character going to work?
Yeah.
And eventually somebody found out that like in Marvel 3 that you can plink the Maya summon with an evidence gathering. So you can use the Maya as like either like a combo extension in the corner where she'll OTG, you'll pick up a piece of evidence and you'll relaunch them. Or even better is like you get the Maya shield out and you're able to immediately get like a piece of evidence. And just if they're
Oh
like
my God.
not good with getting around the shield, like especially if they're not a rushdown character, then usually you just get free evidence for Maya being there.
Interesting.
I love his super where he's just like pointing, you were guilty of this, and you just see someone just shocked. It's super dramatic.
Oh yeah, I think it's called like press the witness or something like that. Oh no, that's one of his other moves. But it's like turnabout. Turnabout is the mode. So it was very funny to me that they were like, oh, if you collect the evidence and you hit them with this one move, like you actually become one of the most broken characters in the game. And easily my favorite character to mess around with people that are like just getting started with the game is giving them a taste of the finger.
It's like you.
Or to just run up to somebody, jump back overhead finger. There's no other fighting game character that can quite capture the feeling that that move can give to you.
I agree. So what's number 4?
Number 4 would have to be the like Mega Man X4. That was one of those games that I think I was also able to get a copy of that on my like PS1 and played through it so many times, like both X and Zero, and just that whole game was so much fun that I was really downtrodden once like they made the changes in X6 and like 7 and 8. That was just like, you had such a good thing going on here. I know you guys were kind of like fumbling the bag a bit when it came to 5 and 6 with them probably being like downgrades, but
Yep.
it didn't end up being something that I wanted for the series. And then all that stuff happened with Inafune, especially finding out that he's the one that like basically killed fighting games for a while.
He did?
Yeah, that's a whole nother like story to go into where
Oh dear.
I'm pretty sure that it was like because Third Strike was the first one that did okay. Like they had so many games where it was just doing so badly because people didn't like the new cast that Inafune ended up taking over as the president of Capcom and became one of the first like Japanese like game devs to say like, oh, we just need to focus on everything that's going on in the West because they know what's going on, and if we market our games towards them, then we're going to start thriving as a company.
Yeah.
And that whole like blackout was basically his fault. And I think it wasn't until they actually like got rid of him that Ono, I believe it was given a chance to finally like release Street Fighter 4. And like my life wouldn't be the same as it was today if it wasn't for the revival of the 2D fighters
Yes.
for like a whole new generation. Oh.
Yeah. I remember Street Fighter 4. Good times. Some bad, but good times overall.
They were definitely fun. Like, especially, it was just one of those games where it seemed like a lot of normie people were at least pretty into it.
Yeah.
So it would just be like, oh, well, at least I have like a Cammy in this game.
Yeah.
So mess around with that. And just kind of as like a Marvel player that I would always just kind of like joke around about Capcom players back in the day. Anyway, I was like, man, you guys really only play this game?
Oh my gosh, I just love the beef between like Marvel players and other players. It's very entertaining to look at.
It was really just like bully stuff at that point. They would just be like, "Oh, the
Literally.
game's ass. Nobody's playing this game, and everybody's playing Street Fighter 4." And it's like, okay, but
Yeah, we had one guy that played Mortal Kombat hating on Marvel versus Capcom.
and back in the day, I'd still just be like, "But are you happy? Like, are you actually playing a game that you enjoy, or are you just doing it because other people are playing it?"
Real talk.
All right, and your final and last game.
Da, 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 da.
So it'd have to be the one that I had like a huge obsession with as soon as I got to get a touch of it. Is Hollow Knight. It's probably
Ooh.
my like most favorite Metroidvania game of like all time right now, just because it was like able to instantly capture me, both from you're playing the little guy, and I've got a big appreciation for the little people, but it had that whole like grimdark setting, like going underground, like having a nice little like. I thought the story mode for that game was actually pretty good, but the bosses are all amazing. The game just felt super crisp, and I got like so obsessed with that game that I didn't get any sleep for like the 4 or 5 days that it took me to get through pretty much
What?
everything. Because I would just try to sleep and just say like, oh, but I could go cover up this one more area. I could go get one more upgrade.
I was like
just
that.
having so much fun with it.
I was like that at one point.
That's classic gaming for you.
Yeah.
You can't miss it, or you can't like make it up with anything.
Oh no. All right. So, moving on to our next topic, and that is, what are your current thoughts on the state of gaming?
So I definitely think that AAA games are like not doing very well. I'm just not interested in keeping up with most of the new stuff that comes out unless if it's a brand that I already recognize. So if they do stuff like this, there's a little like hints of things that come every now and then, and it's either from people that are indie game developers or people that like look back at the good stuff and say like, look, we can find a way to recapture the magic that it had before, as long as you like the devs would be like, oh, give me responsibility for it. And I really think Sonic Mania was probably like the biggest thing that gave me hope for that the new games that are coming out, they still have people that are super passionate about making video games that are
Right.
fun to play, replayable, and will give you memories forever. A lot of the games that they make nowadays, it's like The Last of Us, even though it was I'd say the first game is definitely like deserves all the praise that it got, but it's not really like a replayable game. It's just like you get it out of the way, you get your story, you get your discussions, and that's kind of most of the life that it has. But it doesn't
Yeah.
have that same fun of going back to it and playing it again because it doesn't feel like it had much replay value going for it.
Yeah, it's mostly just a one and done, and you're just there for the story. And then once you beat the story, you're like, all right, I'm done.
But hey, Naughty Dogs has the 4th remastered version.
Bro.
Joking.
But there's stuff like the roguelike genre where those actually, if they make more games like that, like I'm probably on board because stuff like Hades and like the roguelike versions of other games. One of them, it was like a Mega Man Battle Network clone.
Mega Man Battle Network clone.
I'm trying to think.
Man, it's been a while since I actually played the game, but I had such an obsession with it.
I'm looking this up now.
But anyway, yeah, if we can get back to that later. Roguelike games, I think, are like the biggest solution when it comes to the replayability and games still being able to like do, or the devs being able to do their thing. But it's both like the good versions of it and the bad, I would say, would be stuff like Diablo 3 was where it ended up kind of becoming like a roguelike where it took a lot of time to actually just get the other character that you wanted to get ready, and then go into the crazy madness that was some of the buff combinations that these enemies would have. That it felt more like it was less about skill and more about getting lucky with like the combination. That would be like, oh, if you had a walling where they also like leave lava below you, like what am I supposed to do about that when I can't just like dodge roll through the wall? Like, oh, you know, GG's. That's if they're roguelike games or they have stuff like that, that's usually the biggest way to get me disinterested. Especially as somebody that was a big MMO fan, like I don't really like the direction that stuff like Final Fantasy 14 is going into, and retail WoW, where it's become a lot more about like trying to, especially WoW has like become a chore to try to get people to keep up with their stuff to stay raid competent.
Yeah.
And
Oh wow.
also just being like, oh, if it's your first character, we're going to give you this free boost so you don't have to worry about any of the old content anymore.
That just sounds very lackluster.
And it just kind of seems like they don't really like their own game, is what the retail like design philosophy has been. And then when it comes to Final Fantasy 14, I think that they're going overboard when it comes to the homogenization of just like the entire game. It's becoming such a predictable cycle of raid comes out, story stuff happens, and then you might get something thrown in here like now and then, like the Fall Guys event that they did at the end of last year was like totally out of left field for me. But it was only something that was able to be fun for like a couple of days. And I got through like 3 different raid cycles before the repetitiveness just kind of got to me. And especially the way that MMO players play now. I watched like a video recently where they basically got compared to a locust swarm.
Can you give me one?
And it's like, especially my one friend that plays the game is very much like this, where it's just about like new stuff comes out. You have to be extremely efficient about making sure that you get to max level and you get to do all this stuff while you still have time. And then most of the player base gets like either burned out, or they're like, oh, I got my stuff done within the first couple of weeks, so now I'll come back to this like whenever there's new stuff.
That doesn't sound like a Final Fantasy game. It sounds like a Final Destination. Like, geez.
Yeah, like they're way too focused on like beating the game instead of really enjoying the journey that like gets you through some of these things and making the time to, you know, see the brighter side of the grass. It's just, I really hate the way that most modern MMO players play the game now.
Yeah, I'm intimidated. I'm like, I've thought about MMOs, but I'm just like, it looks like it'll drag on for the rest of my life, and I have to pay more money just to get good stuff. Or it's like one of those freemiums, as some people say it.
Oh yeah, like a lot of the Korean MMOs are the ones that play like that.
You know, I didn't realize Granblue was a gacha game, in all honesty.
And I'm glad I never actually got into it. But
I never knew it existed until recently.
But the one gacha that definitely did get me.
Genshin Impact.
Was no.
Oh, thank God.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links was when that first came out, was kind of my first taste of being like, oh, there's a lot of these packs where they actually do have like FOMO going on, where if you don't get the cards that you need from them within the month of it being available, like you just can't get them anymore.
It's like you're lucked out, and you can't trade with anybody. Good luck.
And it did have a crazy system. Like I think the card was called Mirror Wall in like the first season of the game, where it's a trap card. If they attack, you activate it, and it like reduces their attack points by half and makes it so I think they couldn't be destroyed by battle.
Dang.
But being able to like stall the game for a turn was such a huge thing, and almost everybody had it. So it would be like if they had a set card down, and I would start doing stuff, and I would notice that the game would give them time to respond, I'd be like, they have down Mirror Wall. I'm gonna have to play around that, and I eventually
It's
just
like,
had
what are you
to
gonna do about it?
like
Oh, mod stuff.
play around the cards so much that I ended up wanting to get it myself. So the crazy thing about this system was that it was like they only had one card in this whole like digital box, and then you had to buy out the entire box before you could go start dipping into a new one. So it would just be, it honestly felt kind of like Genshin Impact, where
A digital box that you have to go through.
it's like once I got that third pull of the rare card that I needed, like I didn't have to buy that box anymore. But over just like my 2 months of playing that game, I ended up spending around like $300 or something doing this.
Man.
So I've felt the sting that the gacha games come with, and I'm pretty glad that now that I've been messing around with like Master Duel for the last like month or so, that it's definitely nowhere near as predatory when it comes to. It does have like a way to buy currency to get these like booster packs, but the booster packs don't have that crazy box system going on anymore.
Oh, that's a relief.
They have a pity system where if you do have bad draws, that they're like, oh, if you do it again, like you're guaranteed to get at least a handful of these things. And if you happen to get rare cards that you don't need or you don't want, you can just kind of like dismantle them for these little like crystals, and it'd only take usually 2 or 3 of those to actually make one of the rare cards that you do want.
Oh.
So I was able to, especially it starts off with like giving you a bunch of currency. So if you do have a deck in mind that you want to play and is available on Master Duel, then it's pretty easy to get like either every card or at least most of the cards that you want for it without actually having to spend any money for it.
How do you feel about shooters?
So I did have a phase where I was pretty into Halo 2 and Halo 3, especially Halo 3 since it had like Xbox Live and everything like that. I have super fond memories of those 2 games and probably played them for Halo 3 at least like 4 or 5 months, like almost every night. And
that was the go-to game.
That was a go-to game indeed.
And then I had these roommates for the first place that I like moved out into. They were really into Call of Duty Modern Warfare. So you'd just be like chilling on the couch, and they would have this little like rotation of handing off the controllers to somebody else. And so if it came to be my turn to play, I'd be like, okay, it's time to play a little bit of Call of Duty. And I was like super mid at the game because I would just only play it when we were part of these like couch sessions.
Respectable.
But overall, I'd say like I messed around with Counter-Strike and like Team Fortress 2 just a little bit back in the day, like barely anything. And it's not really a genre that like really got me that hooked after the Halo generation was over. So I haven't really gone back to play like Valorant or stuff like that.
Interesting. Okay. All right, I have a game question. All right, so what are your current thoughts on the state of fighting games?
I have like such a huge like peeve when it comes to being like the monkey paw of you get a new fighting game, and there might as well just be like a bingo board of like what super good fighting game feature for teaching your players how to be good does this game not have? Whether it's like the frame data display, whether it's net code,
yes.
whether it's like an actual tutorial in the game that at least like even for Xrd, I think one of the cool things that it has is just like, oh, these really annoying moves, like we want to see you try to come up with a solution for, whether it's something like the Mei, like her little dive kick in Xrd would just be like riding the anchor on the way down and hit on both sides, and they'd be like, oh, you got to anti-air this move. So it did at least kind of like get the juices flowing for helping people find their own solutions. But it just doesn't make any sense to me at this point. It's like there's good things like the plus R stuff that they add to that, and like especially now Street Fighter 6 had so much going on for it. But so now my like biggest pet peeve is the fact that we have this great netcode, and a lot of the stuff, especially when it comes to consoles, is like region locked. You can't just play, like if you get into a ranked mode, you're not actually ranked against the people around the world. Even though you are, but you really only get to play people in this like set region for them to try to make it so that the netcode is stable.
Yeah.
That should really just be something where you get the option to pick.
Yeah.
That's like bare minimum, I think, something that needs to happen, especially for the new version of Under Night, because it had a big region locking info or issue, especially when it came to the console versions of the game. And I think even PC, it's the thing on Steam. I hope that they end up reconsidering making that into a feature that can be toggled, because the more options that you can give to it, the better when it comes to net play searching. There was the whole re-release of Blaze Blue when that did get rollback, that you'd go back into ranked and it would still just be like first to one.
Yeah.
That's it's not a good feel, both as
One and
somebody-
dones.
as somebody that would like win a few of them and be like, oh man, I just got like super lucky and now that's it. I'm never gonna see like top player on ranked mode again.
Yeah.
And the Persona rollback for the PC mode specifically, it was just like missing key stuff that was in the console version, like the June Slavy is not there. I don't know why it's not there. It really should have just been there. And it's like such a big peeve for me. But there's also this like spectator issue where you watch the game in spectator mode, which is pretty big deal for people that are running tournaments.
Yeah.
And there would be like a desync. So the input reader, I guess, would just like mess up, and then you would see this like replay that's going on of stuff that the players are not actually doing. And you, after like a minute, the game just kind of like freaks out and it's like, oh, we're really out of sync, so we're just gonna stop this. And you end up having to like either ask the players to be honest with it, or you're just like, well, they're gonna have to play that again because we got the spectator glitch.
That sounds painful.
Yeah.
It's like the fighting game devs really need to understand that the more resources that they have to help their players get better, the more life that their game is going to have, because people, like it's, what was it? There was that one episode in Haikyuu with the tall guy, like when he's able to get his block on like a first pro, that one of the guys that he was training with was just like, you're not hooked into the game right now, but once you get your moment and you feel that, like, you're hooked.
Yeah.
And fighting games are super about like getting that one moment and just being like, yeah, I want to do that again.
Yeah.
Or seeing somebody else do something crazy that you could put into your own gameplay.
Definitely.
And it's like probably one of the biggest things of why it's become a genre that I've stuck with for such a long time, is because like the more I get into it and the more I learn about it, the more fun it is to me.
Okay.
Oh, and of course, one big thing is unlockables. Is that fighting games, they need to stop having unlockable stuff, like characters that matter for like versus mode and for tournaments, because it's such a burden that they need to stop putting on the players and on the, especially the event organizers.
It's like, oh yeah, you got to play the story mode just to get these extra characters. Then you got to do a couple rounds. Mortal Kombat 1 is the biggest example.
Yeah, like, oh my god. Like I had it like when we got on a couple more PS5s and Mortal Kombat 1 came out, I had to give one to Waluigi, one to Herbs, and I also had one to go home, unlock all these characters, burn through story mode, go through the invasions just to unlock these characters. That is a chore. And I can only, and I remember Alexander, Juicy Duelist, shout out to him. He was going through that as well for CEO Taku, having to go through story mode through all of these consoles, all these PS5s for Mortal Kombat 1, just so that, hey, we can have Shang Tsung in. And I'm just like...
And nobody touched him.
Yeah.
That's painful.
Yeah, like you spend all these hours unlocking certain characters just for people to not even play as them. No one didn't even touch the character that you spent hours on unlocking, so that way, hey, at least it's ready for tournament.
You also had to go to Havoc, which some people did play.
Yeah, and that was the thing with Mortal Kombat 1 is that when you finally have the game downloaded, because I experienced this and I had to give the PS5 to Waluigi, I had to, like, once I had the game fully downloaded, all right, it's downloaded, it's ready to go. Go into Versus, there was only 2 characters available to play, and that was Scorpion and Sub-Zero. Everybody else, you had to play through story mode to unlock them. I understand, like I get it, and I understand that. Yes, back in the day when we were younger, it was fun to play a certain game, to play the game to unlock certain characters. Like I remember doing that in Street Fighter 4 to get Goken and Akuma. It was fun. On the competitive side of things, it is annoying.
It sucks.
It is annoying because you have to do it for so many setups. And yeah.
It's like they really don't understand the burden that they're putting on us for even when it comes to being like, oh, we're going to release a new like character every 2 or 3 months or so. Mm-hmm. And then you happen to be that player that goes onto a console and you're just like, oh, it happened to not get this one update because a lot of these people that do this stuff, like they have a whole bunch of them. Or even if they just like forget or they share the account on multiple consoles. That really like Dragon Ball Fighters is probably one of the biggest things that I could personally say that it's like the worst feeling to see that the characters that you play just aren't there. And you know, we're now in 2024. I think that we need to start leaving this stuff behind where it becomes such a hassle to just make sure that the game actually has the characters that are on the game. Or like if they like it really isn't such a big deal to have like a Konami code to unlock everything if they really want to go that road.
Yeah.
That would be the best.
Yeah. That way you could just get it over with, be like, here's the code, enter it, all characters unlocked, good.
Even with MK being scummy, they're like, oh, hey, if you want everything, if you want all these stuff about doing invasions, $20.
Yeah.
I'm like, screw that.
Yeah. At that point, it's just like, I'd rather say, I'll just have to suck it up and just play through it. But if I don't have the time, then it's just like, I'm just going to have to cough up the money then. And I hate that.
I'm in a Street Fighter where you can buy skins, and it's like $10 a skin. I'm like, this is a robbery.
Yeah.
Microtransactions.
Yeah.
Is the current state of gaming.
And
I don't like it, and especially for fighting games. Like, I understand people want skins, but I think the way how Capcom did it is kind of scumbaggish to where you have to spend money to get their currency to then get the skins that you want. It's not like how it was back in Street Fighter 5 and Street Fighter 4 where you would just go through the PlayStation Store or Xbox Marketplace and then you would buy the skins from the store from there and then it'll be on your account. Now you have to buy the in-game currency. That's where they get you because guess what? Later on as time goes on, there's going to be sales. That DLC is going to be cheaper. Now think about it. Do you think Capcom is going to make it cheaper or have a discount for their gems or their jewels where you have to spend money to get these characters?
No, it's after a year 1 or a year 2.
Yeah.
And it's even like such a scam when it comes to the conversion rates of being like, oh, you don't really get like a full dollar's value out of stuff when you get these currencies because they really want you to either go for this like one targeted amount where it's like if you invest at least like $60 or so, then you'll be able to get like a nice even spread of characters without having leftover currency.
Yeah.
Whereas if you have that leftover stuff, then that like temptation
it's useless.
be able to make it to something where it can be useful again is something that just really gets me a lot. And like now that I've had this conversation, I'm going to remember the fact that one of the characters that's coming out for Uni 2 is actually a story unlock character. And right now is being posted up as a pre-order bonus. that if you pre-order the game,
That's scummy.
that he'll just be unlocked immediately. And this is definitely a character that people that are getting into the game are going to want to play, like Kuon with his whole like crazy swords everywhere, evil villain guy. Like these anime people love those kind of characters.
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep track of how many problems that this ends up causing.
We just wait for Twitter, like everybody else.
Yeah. All right, next topic. You had to be there moments. What moments that you can recall back that you're like, you know what, you definitely had to be there for it. Like you had to be there. Like it could be something in gaming, competitive tournaments. Like what memory you can recall back that is like, yo, you had to be there for this one moment.
I'd say the two of them. One of them was like being able to play World of Warcraft during the time where it did have like the population at its like highest. I was like pretty into Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King, and could definitely see the mix of like both a lot of casual players and still a pretty active like hardcore player base. So I had like such a comfy time of being in the middle ground of being like very semi-hardcore, always having like people to play with, always having people to talk with, and the whole like MMO player mentality. There is a lot more people that were very chill about it and would just kind of use it as a way of being like, oh, I'm just hanging out with my friends online. Like that's where a lot of that happened for me was in World of Warcraft back in the day, and that community ended up becoming so strong that I have a couple of them that I still talk to this day, and they got me into like League of Legends and other random things just because we had time to kill, and these were like my actual friends. And especially the ones that they would find out, oh, you live in Florida, let's like meet up. One of them like lived over in Hollywood, and we ended up like I got like a ride from them, and we went to go get Burger King or something like that.
Nice.
Nice.
Those were easily like the best times when it comes to MMOs, and it's quite a shame that stuff like that doesn't really happen anymore. There was one like group of people in Final Fantasy that I was able to meet up with over at Combo Breaker. I think it was like 2 years ago, and they got to see me cook a little bit in Type Lumina.
Nice.
Like, by the way, I play fighting games. Yeah. And the other one was I got to go to one of the Evos where Anime Illuminati was hosting their first Salty Suite. So I got to experience I feel like that was probably the best one that was there from what other people have told me, that it's gotten like more packed and like it ended up causing like a lot of like bad odor issues going on. People that were just kind of like not the people that you'd want to have at parties would like come into these suites, and then they would like cause a ruckus, and especially like the person that's hosting the room is the one that has to deal with all of that.
Yeah.
And those Mandalay Bay suites would also have that thing going on with the mini fridge, where if you opened the mini fridge, then you got charged for like everything that was in there. So you'd have to remember to get it locked. And that first year, they definitely got bodied by like the fridge getting cleared out, and Juno realizing like, I gotta pay for all of these. I can't believe you guys did that. But like that suite,
That is painful.
that suite had like we got to watch the Street Fighter top 8, and I remember getting to be there for the moment where I think it was Momochi versus Gamer B in Street Fighter 4 that I ended up making a bait. No, all right. So they got to the last set of the game. It was like 2-2. I think Momochi won the first game, and then the second game, his controller went out on him.
Oh, no.
So we had to sit there and wait for the life lead to go out, and throughout that time, like the people in the room are going crazy, and they're just like, all right, who wants to make extra side bets on this very last round? I actually got to win like $30 off of that.
Nice.
Because I was like, my Mochi's definitely got this. Like now he's playing so good in that last game that there's no way that he's not about to like bounce back from this. And I also got to see like Kane Blue River versus Ray Ray back then, and it was crazy to see the whole like Kane Blue River saga of. I think he was able to beat F Champ at first, and then a lot of people kind of like learned how to play against him. So he was in this big rut of being like, oh, my team doesn't work anymore. My team sucks. I got to learn how to play some meta stuff. And you would see him on like Wolverine, Doom, Virgil, a lot just from him being like down bad from it. But like, it feels like that year or so ended up flying by, and he ended up convincing himself like, no, my team can do it. I just have to learn how to play against people better. And him being able to beat Ray Ray was like insane to me, because it's such a one of those like matchups where Ray Ray would seem like he's perfectly suited to fight against characters like that, where you both need to be very patient and you need to be able to execute like when the moment counts. And that top one pressure, it kind of got to him a little bit, while Kane Blue River was just like feeling himself that whole set.
Oh my god.
So, I don't remember exactly which year it was. I think it was around like 2016 or 2017. But being able to see those matches live in the suite were like a moment I'll never forget. They also had Daisuke was there, both like signing autographs for people and playing sets with them in Xrd. And there was this whole other room that was on the side where I got to meet a bunch of Persona players. And like you go to use the bathroom and you see there's a setup for both current code and Fate Unlimited code.
That's when shit's getting real.
That's why I was like,
Oh my bad. That was
it's like the meme is actually alive and well.
because I've seen that
Instagram.
picture before. I have seen that picture before with Melty Blood. And there's people that just like play fighting games casually right by a bus stop or in a hotel, like a normal. We all look at it as normal, but other people are just like, "What the fuck are they doing?"
Yeah, it's a very like easy way to get like way more attention than you want. Is having like a laptop and like your arcade sticks out here.
We've been there and done this.
Yep.
Especially all the time when I'm like at the airport and if I've got some time to blow, then I'm just like, well, I already have my stick and I have like my laptop or my console set up here, so I'm just gonna like lab for a while. Because that's also my like big thing is I like to lab way more than I like to net play. Because I'm just like, I'm in my space, and if there's stuff that I need to work on, like that's the time to do it. Most of the time I just kind of like to work on combo swag and a little bit of neta. But if there's something where I've had like a recent set and it's on my mind, then I'll take the time to watch my stuff, observe what I need to get out of the way, and then just spend like 5 or 10 minutes like labbing out my defense against this character. Or some like, if I'm able to come up with 2 or 3 solutions to like one big problem, then it's something that I can like put into the next match. And I used to do that a lot for Dragon Ball Fighters back when that game first came out, and we were doing it at Versus like twice a month. Like had such a big target on my back, but I'd be able to watch the replays against the people that would like beat me, and then we'd be able to run it back, and it would become like a big rivalry at that point.
It's good. It's good.
Those are some great moments. Holy smokes.
Oh, yeah. All right. Next one. What are your gaming pet peeves? I know you spoke about one of them, but do you have any other gaming pet peeves you want to share?
Well, I kind of miss the console war back when it actually did matter.
Wait, which console war?
Pretty much the whole like PS3, like Xbox 3. Was it 360 by then?
Yeah, 360.
Xbox 360 and like Wii.
Yeah.
Even though the Wii definitely like lost by a mile.
Oh heavens, yes.
I would disagree because the Wii actually surpassed both the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 in sales.
Yeah, when it came to sales.
Sales, yeah, we won that, but I
But
think
longevity, it kind of just like died.
yeah, the Wii was more for just casuals, but
Yeah.
for people who were like very hardcore wanting to play games, the battle was between PS3 or Xbox 360. But go for it.
But yeah, back then, I think like even I, as a Wii player, I found it very annoying that a lot of the arcade stick stuff just like wouldn't work on the Wii's.
Yeah.
That was always a shame. But it did seem like back then that the developers tried to do way more to stand out from the other ones and to actually make their prices like competitive with each other. But nowadays, like Xbox has found their own niche, and PlayStation is kind of just has like such a big like core audience that they've grown up over time that now they were like, oh, well, we're splitting up our plans into all this other stuff. The games that they used to offer for PSN just like weren't anything that I became interested in after like 5 months that they stopped doing the good games that mattered. Or it would be something that would be like so old that I already played it, so it doesn't matter that they're doing it now. But the price split stuff and the increase on the PSN was actually kind of like one of the things that was enough is enough for me. So now I'm purely just a PC net player because of that. I think the whole Xbox Game Pass thing that they have going on is kind of cool that it works on both Xbox and PC. But because of how much time that I put into stuff like fighting games and nowadays like a little bit of Master Duel here and there, that my bucket list of games takes so long to get out of the way, like maybe like 1 or 2 games a month, that the Xbox Game Pass kind of seems like I don't have enough time to really do something like that anymore.
That's understandable.
And the GameCube was such like a great like phase of my life that I sort of missed Nintendo finding both their niche and the fact that they had like games that were still super good. Stuff like Resident Evil 4 used to be like crazy how good that used to look on the GameCube like back in the day. And I like did a little bit of like video game research into how like back in the day when stuff like ET was coming out, that games used to be like so down in the dumps for quality that Nintendo used to be was the first company to say like, look, you have to pass our like quality check to make sure that any of these games can be on our consoles. And then the Wii ended up coming out and it became the shovelware console.
Yep.
Crazy to
So
me how
much
this,
dumb shit on the Wii.
transition ended up happening. Like you could literally spend like hours just like making fun of the stuff that's on the list of the Wii shop.
Yeah.
What's the worst Wii game in history? Making me look this up
That's
now.
why I said the Wii was more of a casual. It was more of a casual console for just casual gamers. Like, if they could not afford a PS3 at the time or an Xbox 360 at the time, then the Wii would be your more affordable choice. And of course, with it came its roster of games, and I can see why it sold so well because it was stupidly cheap. A lot of people got frustrated with the Xbox 360 Red Ring of Death to the point where they end up having to bought the console maybe 3 or 4 times. They're tired of it. They're looking up on YouTube during the early days of how do I fix my console Red Ring of Death. Then of course, people who had PlayStation 3s, you had the network got hacked. I remember that, and you couldn't play none of your games online. And this was during the time where Mortal Kombat 9 came out during that time. And I remember not being able to play online, and it sucked. And there was also another game, SOCOM 4. I mean, it was bad, but there was no online because it got hacked, and that killed the game. Because I grew up on SOCOM, like from the PS2 era. I still have all their games, and I was waiting for this. I was happy for it. Was a letdown. And then, of course, the hack came. Yeah. And then, of course, the PS3 also had the yellow light of death. That's if you had the fat boy PS3, not the slim one. but it didn't happen often. And I think the only way to curb the yellow light of death for the PS3 was that you just have to air dust that the fans and whatnot like every now and then, just so that it at least has that longevity to keep going.
Ugh. I actually had like I worked at a play and trade for a while, and they did have their own like console repair stuff.
Yeah.
So I remember seeing my like manager and the console repair guy like try to repair all of these like yellow light Fat Boy PS3s.
Yep.
I think that was the only one that had backwards compatibility.
Yep.
So that is why it was like such a big deal for people that it would stop working. But I think the Xbox 360, I actually ended up going through at least 3 of those things from Ring of Death. From like
I went through one.
I went through 2.
like Halo 3 and like Gears of War, that they would just fry that.
Oh, yeah.
yes.
The game is too powerful. Gears of War 2 is too powerful. Or even like Black Ops 2.
Oh my God! Like hours and hours of playing just Gears of War or even Halo, and press the button and you just see the red ring. And I was like, oh my God! And I'm like, no, please, unplug, replug again, beep, your red ring.
It wasn't easy being a gamer back then. You had to wait like a whole month to get your console back if it was still.
Yeah.
Either that or you just have no choice but to buy a new one if it's out of warranty.
Yeah.
Which is what happened to my family and I.
Or like there was always a ton of people that would like know how to mess around with the console themselves. So if somebody ever did that to your console and you had to return it, they'd be like, "Oh no, this thing isn't under warranty anymore because you broke the seal."
Yeah. I remember me and my boys, like when one of my guys had his Xbox 360, had the red ring and death. We literally took the whole day, like we completely unscrewed and just completely dissected the Xbox 360 and then put it back together. Like we didn't know what the hell we were doing, but we were just like, bro, we need this to work, because I think that was the day where we was going to play Gears of War 2. No, Gears of War 1, and we all had controllers. Like, I finally got a controller to play with them or whatnot. We're going to do a 4-player split screen. Red Ring of Death. On the day that everybody got a controller, everybody's at the house, we all got food and whatnot, Red Ring of Death. And it was like, you know what? We're going to figure this out. Get some screwdrivers and whatnot. Put the Xbox 360 on the table and just start unscrewing. Like, we're going to figure this out. And after, 4 hours, it worked. And then the next day, Red Ring of Death again. And I was like, you know what? Send it. It's dead.
And there was like a plethora of stuff on YouTube that were all like bad tutorials or people
Really
that would be
fucking-
like,
Yes.
The funny thing
works.
is, I remember the accessories the 360 came with, like the back fans for preventing cooling. I gave up when I had Ring of Death, and I just put like an ice pack over it, like nothing happened. It did last a couple hours though.
Yeah. Good times.
Oh, good times. Instead of Red Ring of Deaths, you're just dealing with melting USB ports.
Not so much.
I'm joking. That's a potential hazard.
There was also one, I think like we were playing Mario Party or something like that on the Wii, where we had to have the Wii remotes, but we didn't have a sensor bar at the time.
Oh.
So we actually had to use the method where you take 2 candles and you are able to use the area in the middle of them as like an infrared sensor.
That's... What the fuck? I never heard this
The
before.
science is crazy.
The science is really crazy indeed. You literally just use a candle.
2 candles. No, you had to have 2, so they would be able to like be both a heat source and like like makeshift sensor.
This is some MacGyver shit right here.
They don't make games like they used to.
No, they don't. I think that's a relief.
Yeah, definitely for the best.
I saw the worst games, and it put a tear down my eye.
Yeah, the Wii, the Xbox 360, and PS3 era, that was definitely a very interesting era of gaming. Like, each console had something bad, but each of them also had something good.
That's true.
And I think that was also a good point in time where all of us, we were able to game online for the very first time. And yeah, great times, great memories, whether you were on Xbox Live or you were on the PlayStation 3, because, online was free. Good times.
Yeah, my first shooting game was on a Wii, actually.
Which one?
Call of Duty World at War.
Ah.
That's a secret that not many people know. Now you guys know.
And speaking of pet peeves, now I can finally talk about this because I did say that I was going to talk about
Let it out, brother.
Yes, I have to talk about this. I know there was a patch for Mortal Kombat 1 that just came out recently to hopefully help fix the game desynchronization. But when I tell you that shit was so annoying, like every 2 games, game desync. Game desync. All right, I'm about to play my set, game desync. Thankfully, this doesn't happen when I'm playing private matches against other people because I always play for the Tap Never Sleeps online tournaments. It doesn't happen there, but whenever I'm playing ranked, because I'm like, all right, let me try to still keep my competitive edge in the game, and then all of a sudden game desync either after game 1 or going into game 2 or be starting game 1, and I'm just like, what the hell? And it just kills my mood. All the time. It just kills my mood to the point where you're just like, you know what? I'm done. I'll play Grand Blue. Screw it. I'll get gimped out by fucking Nier in Grand Blue than going through this desync shit in Mortal Kombat 1. It was so annoying and frustrating because right after you had a really good match, and that's the feeling, like you had a really good match and all of a sudden the game just be like, nah, yeah, you guys are not playing anymore. It kills your mood. Kills your mood. I hate that. That's my pet peeve.
Yeah, it's honestly stuff like that isn't really like a shocker to me, that there's like first person shooters and like battle royale games and the League of Legends genre. I already forgot what that's called. Why
MOBA.
Yeah, MOBAs. Why there is such a big player base? It's because stuff like that really hardly ever happens, because if it did, as often as it did on fighting games, those players would have gotten out of there the same way.
Yeah.
100%.
They would check out, be like, yeah, I'm done.
And as time goes on, it gets harder and harder to be a fighting game player because the new consoles are less fighting game friendly.
Agreed.
Still net play issues when it comes to the raids quitters or the desync stuff, where you really wonder at this point how they haven't found a good solution to it, and how important that is for them to be able to keep their dedicated players. And it kind of makes me more worried that they're more worried about just getting their game sold, and then being done with it.
Yeah, just getting the money for it. Let's put the product out there and then fix it later. Mortal Kombat 1.
Which is it's in its beta phase, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
I still say screw the people that rush Warner Brothers into making a new Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, I would have been happy with another Injustice game. That way we would have time to, we can enjoy a Mortal Kombat game. Because at that point, I'm going to be like, hey, we could do an Injustice 2v2. 2 characters, an assist, you have your main character and you have an assist character, or you just swap them, whatnot. I think that would have been good. We should have an Injustice game at that point instead of another Mortal Kombat game where I'm just like, okay, we could have still stayed on 11. Granted, 11 had its issues, but now with 1, you're just
it's deeper issues.
Yeah, and it's annoying. And this is the one Mortal Kombat game where I'm just I'm not completely invested in it completely. Nah.
And you see the scene is dying already before it even grew.
Yeah. But, Mortal Kombat, even on the competitive level, I've always seen Mortal Kombat not up there with Street Fighter. Yeah, it's popular, but I think it's popular with the casuals. Casual gamers love Mortal Kombat, but on the competitive side, it doesn't.
It's more online.
Yeah, it's more online than it is offline. You won't get a lot of people that'll actually come out and play Mortal Kombat or request hey, do you guys do Mortal Kombat or whatnot? I don't see that as often. And even going to CEO for the time that we've been going, we've never seen the Mortal Kombat numbers go up, and I have a strong feeling for even this year for some of the competitions. I don't see Mortal Kombat doing better than Grand Blue Rising, at Combo Breaker, at CEO. Damn sure not Evo. Maybe I might be wrong with Evo. Might be wrong, but
I think you're right with Evo.
Yeah, but I don't see Mortal Kombat, getting that. Getting up there.
It's not getting that next level until the game is actually fixed.
That, and you also have to take into an account that because of the M-rated with the blood and gore, it's not appealing to countries outside the U.S.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
The closest thing is Europe, and that's it.
Yeah. So like in Japan, like Mortal Kombat is like not popular in Japan. Like in Asian countries, it's not popular.
And really, that last game, especially once they added rollback to it, like they really did such a good job of capturing lightning in a bottle with both having like their esports league that kept both casual and hardcore players like very invested in what was going on with the game.
Yeah.
The game was super fun to play online for anybody at any level. And there were all these like guest characters like the Chainsaw Massacre guy, like
Yeah.
Oh, Leatherface. Yeah,
Leatherface.
Jason Voorhees.
that
Alien.
they especially really hope that there are more games that come out with like guest characters like that where they really just come out of left field.
It's all about
like one of my favorite
licensure.
things.
Yeah, it's about licensing, and I think we're gonna start seeing that a lot more with more games because now the new meta is collaborations.
Yeah, which is really lame for some people. Wait, hold on. AJ's not here, but we can talk about the Street Fighter one with Spy Family.
Oh my goodness.
That was the dumbest thing I've ever
Yes.
humanly seen.
Yes.
Like, Capcom dropped the ball. We're thinking, oh yeah, there might be a new skin, there might be something going on, but it's like, no, here's some Avatar looks.
And it looks horrible.
It looks horrendous.
I mean, it hasn't been that long since the Ninja Turtles collaboration came out.
And then the Bocchi one. But the Bocchi one, there wasn't really anything. It's just cover cards.
Yeah, those were easily forgettable, but with the Spy Family one, like Capcom should have capitalized on that one, and that would have made them money. But now when people see it, they're just like, "What the hell is this?"
They had like nice animation going on with the Chun-Li fight, but then they actually showed a modded skin with a fight. I'm like, they have nuts just to show, because
and they modeled it after Jury, and I'm just like,
and Jury's not an assassin. That's the thing. Cammy would have been better.
yeah, Cammy or even Chun-Li would have been better. And I thought a lot of people thought it was going to be like a model off of Chun-Li, but it's not.
It's just the proportions were even awkward too.
I was just like, what the hell is this? Like, no.
They pissed off a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, yours literally like nothing like Jury at all. So it just felt very weird to see her having the like whole like evil laugh stuff going on, the same voice lines as Jury.
Yeah.
And then just being able to see how it actually looks in the character customization was just like, ooh.
This is cursed.
Yeah.
You guys should have at least spent the like dev money to make this look better.
Yeah.
They should at least put some different anime skins or like for like certain characters. Change everybody. Put like Honda in a Anya costume or some shit. A pink wig and a dress would be optimal.
But I do wonder how popular that like Avatar battle stuff even is like lately, because there's that like Majin Obama actually did post one like pretty funny series of people just doing like Avatar battles against each other.
They're
and
so
showing
cursed.
off how like cursed and wacky and fun it can be. I
Yeah.
do think things like that are like great for the longevity of fighting games, because nothing is better than being able to play your favorite fighting game and say like, oh, but we play each other all the time, let's do something to shake it up, and you end up doing like Avatar battle or something like that.
Yeah.
Now Grand Blue, I got to try the like the baby battle mode, whatever it's called.
Oh, Grand Bruise.
Yeah, Grand Bruise. I think that is super sick.
I have not yet to play it.
Oh yeah, I haven't either. I don't have a PSN anymore.
They have it on the PC one too, so
I'm broke.
it's free.
Yeah, you played a free version.
Wait, Grand Bruise is free for? I didn't know this.
Yeah, Grand Bruise is part of the free package.
Oh
Yeah.
my god, I did not know this.
I have not purchased this game, and
Just give me something to do.
I've
Yeah, just
gotten-
play the free version.
Yeah, you're right.
Free version on PC. Can't go wrong. Every week they always change up the character roster.
Yeah, you're right.
And clearly, it's like a way to like get other people that aren't into fighting games to be like, "Yo, you want to play some Grand Bruise?" And they're gonna be like, "Yeah." And then it's not gonna take long for them to be like, "Oh wow, there's a whole fighting game around this. Maybe I should try this out a little bit." And
Exactly.
that's kind of where like it can start.
That is true.
Nothing wrong with that. All right, and last but not least, closing remarks. And before we get to our closing remarks, do you have anything that you want to share with us, gaming related, more stuff that you want to talk to, everybody about, or even ask the chat questions? As a matter of fact, chat, for anyone that is watching, I know there's a couple of people watching. If there's any questions you want to ask, now's the time to ask, share with us.
Well, I'm definitely going to take the time to plug that I'm currently trying to get more of the French bread scene motivated in Florida. I've been going to more of the ones over in Orlando and most of the events that are down here to get more people to play Under Night 2. Especially, Uniclear is still a great game. If you're planning on playing Under Night 2, you should definitely try to get down at least like a little basic fundamental of how your character works before going into the next version, because you're going to be so glad that you took the time to do that, and especially try to understand like some of the intricacies of the grid system, because you really feel like you're learning how to get better at the game once you realize stuff that's like, oh, I did a bad throw, they teched it, I lost the grid cycle. It's very important to learn how to play your character and understand the grid cycle, and you'll be ready for Uni 2. And of course, play Type Lumina. Don't believe all the haters. The game is super fun, especially once you get the hang and you get that like one moment where you're feeling yourself like you're going to be hooked on that game forever. And I am running a Discord for the Florida players. So if you're not in there yet, you can find me on Twitter. You don't have to follow me, just DM me, and I can get you into the Discord. Or if you're in any of the other like Discords in Florida, I can make sure to get you an invite to that. And once Uni 2 launches off, we're going to do at least like weekly lobby nights, get more people to play on NetPlay, help make announcements for any of the local events that are coming up. So we'll keep people in the loop for that. And especially if you have any questions about like any of the stuff that I mentioned earlier, or if you want to learn how to play Carmine, I'm definitely your man when it comes to that.
All right. I definitely do have plans for Uni 2. It'll be a bi-weekly tournament here at Flynn's. It'll be swapped with Grand Blue. So one Friday will be Grand Blue, next Friday will be Uni. Up until the point we have more consoles and more setups and whatnot, then we'll be able to, incorporate both of them on the same day. That'll be chaotic, but if the people want it, then I'll do my best to, supply it and whatnot. But starting off, Uni 2 will be bi-weekly here at Flynn's with Grand Blue. I'm taking Mortal Kombat off the rotation because...
Where's the scene at?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll be a monthly, and then, of course, it'll be at Fighter Fest Light. So that's that. And, yeah, play more fighting games, people. And then, of course, with the anime night that is going to happen in March, this is where I'm going to just have nothing but anime fighters. Uni 2, Grand Blue. I probably might throw in Exert as well, or maybe Dragon Ball Fighters. I haven't come up with a concrete plan yet, but I know for a fact that Uni 2 and Grand Blue are on the list. So that because I want to have more thematic nights to where we don't have to worry about Street Fighter, Tekken, or whatnot, or Strive. It'll be just like other games, so that way if people are interested, then hey, here's a night that you can come to Flynn's for these specific games. Just to, try to change things up a bit.
Yeah, and I'll also plug some of the other locals that are going down over here in Florida too. Especially when Uni 2 launches, there's going to be more support from it from other people trying it out. But right now we do have the monthlies that's going on in Gamer Heaven that usually drops on like a Saturday in the month. Mm-hmm. They're going to start bringing it back for Miramar Masters, which is over in Miramar, for the people over there. They're going to be able to do that on like a Saturday or a Sunday once a month. NXT, they're probably going to be bringing it back over there for the Miami scene. And we'll do a discussion to see whether Tuesday or Thursday is a better night for the Miami scene, because I know those are the two that the nights that they're active, and they do that every other week. So keep your eyes out for that. There's also the scene over in Orlando. I highly recommend coming out to Juicy Monthly if you're in that like Tri-City area of like Jacksonville, Orlando, and Tampa. That there's a pretty thriving scene for the French bread players over there. And it's usually a lot easier for like the Port St. Lucie people to go over there. So there's going to be plenty of local options for people. Highly recommend coming out at least once or twice a month to something that's convenient enough for you, because you'll thank yourself just for being able to get to know the scene and being able to play people and really get a taste of like what's basically in your backyard. And I thrived for the locals, and I'm always happy to see new people come out, show what they're made of, and to just become part of the community from then on.
Well said.
Hell yeah.
Waluigi, any closing remarks?
Oh, dude, thank you so much for coming here.
Oh, I'm glad that you guys had me here.
Yeah,
Looking
I remember
forward
like
to
when
it.
I first met you with Ivan, I'm just like, who the heck is this guy? I'm scared. And then like I realized how chill you were.
Yeah, and I'm always like super low key and like pretty humble anyways, so I don't usually ever get like an opportunity like this. So I'm very happy, Senpai, that you had me on here.
Hey, not a problem, man. I
Hell yeah.
wanted to get you on because I know that you're a very interesting person to, talk to or whatnot, especially when it comes to games. So I was like, for the very first episode of the podcast, for our very first guest, I wanted it to be you. Because I was like,
Hell yeah.
I couldn't get you last year because, schedule conflicts or whatnot, and, other people wanted to be guests. But I was like, when we start in 2024, I got to get you on.
Yeah,
And I'm glad that you came with us and shared us your gaming origin story and just your thoughts on just gaming in general.
Yeah, I'm really honored that I was able to make that much of an impression on you and a bunch of other people, especially like the up and comers. Has been like such a great experience for my like personal growth and just really going from being a guy in the shadows to being like, oh, I know that guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I also want to say this is that if you're going to TNS, are you going to TNS?
I am going to go to TNS.
Oh hell yeah.
Okay, TNS or CEO Otaku, he is awesome at karaoke.
Oh,
That is true.
yeah, I think I ended up actually getting too busy to go to the karaoke on the last one, so I'm going to have to make up for it at the next one. And I'm pretty sure that they're going to have karaoke at TNS also.
Yeah, they are.
I'm not surprised.
They are.
That's gonna be a fun time.
Like, you have to see his performance in karaoke because he kills it.
Now I want to do karaoke. Fuck.
All right, y'all. Well, this concludes episode 90 of the South Florida Gamers Podcast. We want to thank you all for watching and tuning in.
Thank y'all.
And we are signing out.
Peace.